Welcome to the Intrazone Roadmap Pitstop January 2022 edition. This is a bonus monthly show that answers that burning question in your minds. What's rolling out now for SharePoint and related technology in Microsoft 365? I'm Mark Cashman, Senior Product Manager on the Microsoft 365 marketing team, here to help set the ongoing record straight. This month, I talk with Yogesh Ratnaparkhi, Principal Program Manager here at Microsoft, focused on migration of files and folders into Microsoft 365. We chat about Migration Manager progress in the SharePoint Admin Center since we've acquired Mover. We learn about recent updates with the SharePoint Migration Tool and highlight some of the key new organizing and scheduling capabilities now available to admins. Beyond getting your files and folders into the Microsoft Cloud, we'll focus on everything that started rolling out this month, a few related items, and always the fun teasers looking into the crystal ball of next month. We got a solid 31 days in January to crank out a bunch of updates and new features, and it went really fast, so we're going to slow it down for 30 minutes so you get caught up on all of this acceleration as you get into that ever-curving Microsoft 365 roadmap. It's the year of the tiger, and we're going to kick it all off with a roar! Whiskers ready? Be brave. It's time to kick back and get informed about all the tech that rolled out in January 2022. Let us start off with employee experiences, those things that are, of course, for every employee, but oftentimes the one-to-many type communications that you would expect when you're expanding the knowledge and the experiences throughout your organization. First up is something for SharePoint Pages, the ability to spell check and check your grammar. This update brings the actual Microsoft Editor service to SharePoint Pages and news posts, the same one that you would experience in Microsoft Word. This allows inline proofreading in SharePoint to check your spelling and your grammar without relying on any specific browser extensions or turn away of attention. Just fix what needs to be fixed and get going. It also has a nice accessibility touch. If this feature is in use, the suggested colors are monochrome when they're shown on a themed background, so it's more visible. So no matter where your text is, you'll get that help from the editor in your life to help dot those I's and cross those T's and remind us with the red squigglies that SharePoint is spelled with a capital S and a capital P. Believe me, you do not want to be that person spelling SharePoint with a lowercase p. Oh, trust me. Next up, experience improvements to the Viva Topics topic card. For this one, I encourage you to audibly hover just a little closer to your headset, a little closer to your speaker, a little closer, right there. Viva Topics topic cards now show more with a few enhancements. They dynamically expand so you can read longer descriptions. You'll see job titles for contacts, and you can navigate in context to a person's people card to learn even more about them. These improvements will help users get a better sense of the what and the who, and always to stay in context and to get informed. On-hover experiences expanding in January 2022 help you learn, review, engage, and then get back to work. Was it worth hovering here a bit? I hope so. Now, if only Viva Topics could power an on-hovercraft, so we could all take a spin around Tatooine and hover over the word Rancor and learn about Boba's new pet. I know you're dying to know more about that thing. I am. All right, with that, let's make an audible Star Wars scene white transition to the next feature. Next up, SharePoint Navigation Switcher. You can adjust the SharePoint site navigation to be either horizontal or vertical, which makes me think some people might think SharePoint is turning into the next crossword puzzle platform. If it's not Wordle, it's a cross and down of SharePoint. Now, with this new Nav Switcher feature, users can easily customize their team site by changing the navigation orientation and visibility, which gives you the opportunity to change the look and feel, the layouts, the alignment, and everything. With team sites, you usually start off with navigation in the down mode, and you can now adjust it to appear in across mode if we're sticking with the crossword analogy, which then gives you the option to use things like the mega menu capabilities or the cascading style. Or maybe you don't wish to have the nav at all, to which I say, Expelliarmus, whoosh, your navigation is gone, and you turn your site's navigation invisible by turning the visibility off, aka the share cloak of invisibility. Let us all thank James Potter for the hand-me-down and keep this thing rolling beyond Potterville. Next up, conversation search in Office.com and SharePoint. The conversation, one of the most common forms of content that has been left out of the broader search world, often inaccessible when you're not in the individual conversation app. This conversation search allows you to find relevant Microsoft Teams chats and Outlook email conversations when searching in Bing for Work, SharePoint, Office.com. The results will be limited to conversations that you are a part of and conversations that took place in groups and teams that you have access to. As you're searching, you'll see the results in a new separate conversations vertical. It's an aggregate experience mixed with the broader discovery of search results. A lot of knowledge out there is not a document, and now knowledge is even easier to find thanks to conversation search in Office.com and SharePoint. Last up, as part of our employee experience journey of January 2022, is the SharePoint Migration Tool and now Workflow Migration. You can migrate and convert your SharePoint server on-premises workflows into Microsoft 365 as Power Automate flows. This is now in public preview. So for SharePoint on-premises customers, you can now migrate SharePoint 2010 workflows directly to Power Automate. From within the SharePoint Migration Tool, you run a workflow migration task and follow the inline wizard. No more Harry Potter references. Provide the source site and enter the destination. After the migration is completed, the flow owner can sign into Power Automate, navigate to the right solution, and validate the migrated flow. A few notes. You can create the workflow migration, as I mentioned, within the SharePoint Migration Tool user interface, or you can migrate the workflow using PowerShell scripts. The focus right now is 2 out-of-box 2010 workflows. That's approval and collect feedback workflows, with a lot more to come with where the migration team is focused. I have a couple other things around migration that I want to throw in here, but not to go into too much detail because we're going to uncover a lot more when we talk about migration with Yogesh, our migration subject matter expert. So let me mention 3 things briefly. Since we've acquired Mover, which is the migration tool to go cloud to cloud, effectively for us, cloud into Microsoft 365, the 4th cloud storage service is called Ignite. Sounds like Ignite, but it's spelled Egnyte. This is after we've already enabled from within Migration Manager inside the SharePoint Admin Center the ability to bring content from Box, Dropbox, and Google. Now you can bring from the cloud provider Ignite. We also have the ability to tag for cloud scenarios. Tagging lets you organize, sort, and navigate through a large quantity of users or folders as a part of your migration task. We also have task scheduling for cloud scenarios to help you better plan and organize your migrations all up. As promised, I said I would keep it brief, and I will, because we're going to dig in a little deeper into migration all up about what's landed in January 2022 and all the great things that the migration team is up to. Let's turn now and hear from Yogesh. So you've had enough from me about sort of the highlights of what we've shipped for employee engagement and specifically some of what we're doing around migration, but we really want to get into the nuts and bolts of what it is that we're offering holistically for migration of getting your content into the cloud. And of course, specifically what shipped this month, what shipped for migration in January 2022. So for that, to take us a little bit deeper, I want to invite Yogesh Ratnaparkhi from our migration team. He's on the SharePoint team. He's a principal product manager focused on getting your content content into the cloud. And now we're going to get you, Yogesh, onto the intrazone. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Mark. It's always a pleasure to be with you on this podcast.
It's always nice when there's a team that just keeps on cranking out great stuff. So last time we chatted, we talked about X, Y, and Z migration, and there's just a lot more, especially this month. There's a lot of things that shipped. Can you just give us a little summary about what you're seeing customers do with what's available to them to bring their content into Microsoft 365?
Absolutely. So, Mark, as you know, we have the Migration Manager within the SharePoint Admin Center, front-end center, so customers can migrate their content, whether it's from network file shares or third-party cloud providers like Google, Dropbox, or Box. And we also offer a standalone tool named SharePoint Migration Tool, SPMT, which helps you get your content from SharePoint on-prem servers.
So these tools, some of which have been around, in the context of being an admin, you would see the Migration Manager in the SharePoint Admin Center. And if you had the specific need of bringing stuff from on-premises, you would download the SharePoint Migration Tool and connect it to your SharePoint server and connect it to the service, and you're off and running. But if somebody hasn't looked at those tools for a while, not just with what shipped in January, but a lot of the work that you've been doing since we acquired Mover also plays into, if people don't know, into the Migration Manager. And that's something that I think everybody should know what's possible. It might be maybe an action or a task for an admin. But can you talk a little bit about that journey of, from acquisition, where this Mover service was very separate, and now we've done a lot of work to get a lot of those capabilities that used to be a separate site that you would go to now into the SharePoint Admin Center?
Absolutely, Mark. So unification, consistency, coherence is a priority for us in our tool offering. So we have integrated all of the admin-led cloud migration scenarios into Migration Manager. What that means is you don't have to step out of the admin center. You have all the Mover-led migration scenarios fully integrated into the Migration Manager, which gives you this coherent experience and all the goodness of the admin center that you get with other features.
Maybe just for now, because we know one of the elements that landed this month was Mover related, we can put a pin in Mover, switch into what I think is some pretty big news, especially if people have been running SharePoint on premises, for quite some time. They've probably been using workflows, and they've probably been managing a lot of their business processes. And that sometimes is that last mile of, it's kind of hard to get workflows into the cloud. Can you talk a little bit about what's rolling out this month, and maybe even frame it around how this is not the only thing that's coming just this month, but the framework of how we're thinking about getting workflow into the cloud?
Yeah, you're reading my mind. Out-of-box workflows 2010 Converter is now launched as a public preview. What that means is when you download SPMT, you can also convert your 2010 workflows into Power Automate. This is a significant scenario we are unblocking the customers so that now they can actually deprecate these classic workflows and actually start using the modern workflow technologies offered in Microsoft via the Power Automate. And one more thing, building on the momentum of the workflow conversion, we are also investing into the 2013 SharePoint Designer workflows, which would help further unblock some of the classic, on-prem scenarios that customers want to modernize into Microsoft 365.
Nice. So basically, workflows become Power Automate, Power Automate, Power Automate. So this used to be a blocker. I'll just be pretty frank. I know you know this, but just to our audience, we're very aware that when it came to migrating whatever it is that you had in SharePoint, files, folders, sites, apps, whatever you had built as solutions, and a lot of what was connected or really made those solutions was the out-of-box workflows, 2010, and certainly we're aware of 2013 as well. If you think about, where we're getting started this month, just a little, sense of how much you think this will unblock our customers and, be aware of other work that we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, 2010 workflow, now you can start using SPMT to move them to Power Automate. And other than that, we are continuously making enhancements. So back to the admin center experiences, to scale your migrations, we are offering the scheduling functionality. So you often want to schedule your migrations during off-peak hours. So now you can actually schedule your migration batches at a desired time when you know that you will get the peak performance. Similarly, to help you manage your batches, whether it's by division, whether it's by the readiness of your migration, you can tag them. These custom tags are powerful, helps you organize your migration, report it out accordingly. So we're really excited about launching these features this month.
So that means we've got a lot better tooling, capabilities, ways for people to organize so that when they're bringing in a lot of bulk work from on-premises into the cloud, they can better assign and schedule, better tag for organization. But we talked about Mover earlier. I know there's one more thing, and I think it kind of finishes off the majority of what we've wanted to do with Mover to get it all into the SharePoint Admin Center. But what's that final pin? What's that last element of Mover that we can talk about this month?
Yeah, so Ignite, not the Ignite conference, but the Ignite is a third-party cloud source which is used by many customers, and they want to migrate to the Microsoft 365 for that. So Mover used to support this scenario, and now we are excited to launch this in Migration Manager as well. So this was the last scenario that we wanted to support in Migration Manager. And we're really excited to launch this. So now you have all of these popular third-party cloud source providers that you can centrally manage all from the Admin Center.
Yeah, I've seen the UI, and it's one of those kind of impressive moments when if you're an admin and you log in and you have any investments in a third-party cloud service outside of Microsoft 365, and your preference is to have those files and folders in Microsoft 365, effectively moving them in from a third-party like Dropbox, Box, Google, and now Ignite, and have that flow into OneDrive, SharePoint as the back end of Teams. So you might think about moving from cloud to Teams, those types of scenarios. We really run the gamut of being able to offer kind of the summary of everything that your team does from on-prem, cloud to cloud. And I bet within that context of just future migration efforts, is there any last thoughts you have just around what are we doing next? What are we hearing that we should be doing next that we're considering? Anything you can share with the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So all the features that we mentioned, tagging, schedule, they now will be available to all these scenarios that we have integrated. We eventually also want to deprecate the legacy mover so that we can unify the experiences under one umbrella, which is easier for customers when it comes to which tool should I use. Now they have one single answer to that. Looking forward, we want to continually help customers simplify their migrations. So some of the things we are aware of and we have heard loud and clear is reporting. So we want to make reporting much easier, making bulk downloads just a matter of clicks instead of going through each of the items. We also are investing into simplifying our troubleshooting. So make our failures really actionable. Failures are pretty common in migrations when you're migrating complex file structures, but we want them to be actionable so the customers could quickly understand what's going on and they can remediate and move on with their migrations. So those are some of the items that are coming next in the pipeline. And again, we are always trying to improve our fundamentals. So make the platform more robust, reliable, more performant, and scale to larger migrations. So scaling to really large migrations is another thing that we are heavily investing so that big tenants can easily migrate just as small tenants can do.
Great. So fewer excuses for people not to bring their content to the cloud, certainly if they want to, but now more that they can bring, more different content types, different ways of being organized, and soon in the future, better ways to report back, which is always a big ask for anything that is a management or control tool, to see how I did, how am I doing, and to be able to have that be a visual tool or something that they can at least get visibility on what's happened and how effective have we been. So Yogesh, thank you for your time on the IntraZone today, and hopefully I can summarize some of the feedback from our audience. Thank you for making it possible for bringing content into Microsoft 365.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Mark.
always great to hear from Yogesh, to hear the breadth of what we offer for migrations, and to get up to speed on some of the recent innovation that they've rolled out in January 2022. There's a lot of great ways to get your content from on-premises, from other clouds, into Microsoft 365. So with that, let's talk about teamwork in Microsoft 365. And we're going to start off with Microsoft Lists board view. This view is ideal when you want to track items as they move forward in a process or workflow. Moving items through stages is as easy as dragging and dropping across vertical columns. And like cards in gallery view, it's easy to configure which columns your lists are displayed in the cards and in what order. So you make it look like you want it to look. One of the wonderful things about board view is that the metadata of an item automatically updates as you drag and drop from one column to the other. So for instance, if you drag an event session item when you're using something like the event itinerary template, and you move it from a proposed column and you drag it and drop it into an in review column, the item status gets updated from proposed to in review. And maybe even you tie it to a rule that you've created so that it gets triggered when you move an item from in review to approved. By changing the metadata to approved, that's going to kick off that rule to signal somebody else or notify them that they need to then dig in and finalize title, abstract, speakers, whatever it is the rule dictates. Really great way to move things around and, of course, to better automate some of your processes. Now you don't have to go to the board of directors to move things forward. Create your own board views and move things forward or back with progress always in mind. Next up is adjacent to lists. You'll see why. Now Power BI is attached to SharePoint document libraries. Say it with me. Integrate. Power BI, visualize this library. Repeat. Integrate. Power BI, visualize this library. With this mantra, we are excited to announce that we are bringing the data visualization and task automation capabilities of Power BI, previously only available within lists, now to document libraries. Library users will see a new menu option in Integrate, Power BI, visualize this library. Those are the steps to get there, which allows users to create a new Power BI report using that library data. Once a report is saved and published, it will appear in the same submenu under Integrate Power BI. You'll see whatever you named your new dashboard. Users with a Microsoft 365 E5 license or Power BI Pro license will have access to the full report authoring and viewing experience. Users with a Power BI free license may only visualize their list data, but cannot publish nor view reports. Two additional capabilities tied to this update. You can also use the quick chart web part to add simple basic charts to your page, enter your data points, or get data from the list or library, add labels, pick your chart type, column or pie or something like that, and publish. And it looks really great on a page. And in a library, if you go to Automate Rules, create a rule, you can create rules to automate sending someone a notification when a new file is created or a column value changes in the library. Just like rules I mentioned for lists, they are there and they are the same rules capabilities for libraries. This gives you a lot of options of how you want to visualize your libraries and make sense of it all and, of course, course correct off of the insights that you learn by looking at and reviewing the dashboard. Next up, Microsoft OneDrive and SharePoint libraries, those same ones we were just talking about connected to Power BI, have a new drop-down menu. This is really a simple and powerful one. We're adding a drop-down menu that allows you to easily switch between multiple document libraries that are associated with a single team or site. Now, when you select a team or site within OneDrive, you'll be taken to the default document library instead of a list of document libraries to choose from. And when a user selects a document library from within SharePoint, they will be able to choose a different document library using the new library dropdown next to the breadcrumb. And it's not a complete removal of past capabilities. It's a move forward, carrying forward the past. You still will be able to click on the site name in the breadcrumb to see the full list of document libraries. Drop down and navigate. It's liberating to not click 2 or 3 times just to get from one library to the next. Okay, last feature within teamwork. Lists are getting a new entry point, and that entry point is the SharePoint app bar. Go to the SharePoint app bar, look for the lists icon right after the files icon, and we call this My Lists within the SharePoint app bar. Content in the list panel is driven by the Microsoft Graph, and of course then becomes personal to your own activity. You'll see your recent and favorite lists with links to both the list itself and the SharePoint site that the list is stored in. So step right up to the SharePoint app bar and order up your files, your sites, your news, and now your lists. All ages are welcome, open 24/7, Microsoft 365 days a year. Next up, related technology. Technology that's just right there next to SharePoint, shipping all the time, and it's closely related because of this thing we call productivity. So how do we keep you more productive? This first one is, how do we keep you productive across work and life? First item, Microsoft List MSA Preview. Have you heard? Did you see this? You can now sign up for the list preview using your Microsoft account, which is often referred to as your MSA. This is a lightweight version of the Microsoft Lists app designed for small business and individual use in conjunction with your MSA. It's a separate login if you already are using Microsoft Lists with your org ID as a Microsoft 365 Business Plan customer, and you can do both, and we hope that you give it a try. That's the phase it's in. It's in preview, and we would hope that you would give lists a try on the life side of things in your own life. One of the big updates is the new list top-level URL. You can go to lists.live.com. If you haven't been there yet, you'll get prompted to read and review a little bit about the preview and then sign up for an MSA or sign in with your existing MSA. We would love for you to participate. Start by creating and sharing lists with your work colleagues, partners, your soccer team, or your neighborhood volunteer groups. Whomever and wherever it fits, we've designed the app off the core of Microsoft Lists, plus introduce new experiences like tabbed views, or sharing from within a person column, adding images inline, and more. It's time to liberate yourself from coordination chaos, time to clear your brain space and get organized. In short, it's time to try the Microsoft Lists MSA Preview. Start at the blog and go from there. Just go to aka.ms/mslists/blog/MSA Preview. Get started. I know you're going to love it. Especially if you're a list customer, you'll love how you can leverage it and work with people outside of your organization. Next related technology is a new Microsoft Viva Adoption Resource Center. Microsoft Viva is an employee experience platform that brings together communications, knowledge, learning, resources, and insights in the flow of work. And the new Viva Adoption Center offers resources for you to go from inspiration to execution. Get started with an experiment with our services, onboarding employees at scale while being confident that you are improving the overall employee experience. When you go there, you'll find the Viva ebook, links to the Burson assessment tool, communication templates to help get the word out internally, a nice day in the life of guide, quick read, infographics, demos, and more. Just go to adoption.microsoft.com/Viva. And so you can see what else is going on with all of the adoption resources, give the Microsoft Adoption Twitter handle a follow at MSFT Adoption. Last related technology, if you're looking to update your intranet or simply want to get more informed of what's out there, there's a new report from Sam Marshall and the Clearbox crew, and it's called the Intranet and Employee Experience Platform 2022 Report. This report places the SharePoint in a box and independent intranet reports that they've released in the past combining them into a comprehensive buyer's guide. Now, this is kind of the main news. This used to cost $495 US, and now it's entirely free. In my opinion, it's always been worth the expense and always brings business value, be it free or not. I'll put a link in the show notes so you can review the offerings from Microsoft partners such as Valo, Powell, Beezy, and LiveTiles, as well as you'll find the third-party perspective on how SharePoint and the Microsoft Viva Connections module stacks up on their own. Always great insights and always very much looking across a lot of different data points that you might be thinking about in terms of your requirement breakdown. What are your outcomes? What do you want? It also comes with product reviews, vendor teardowns, loads of screenshots, and helpful thoughts on that ever-looming question, do I build or do I buy? There's a public link I'll have in the show notes, but if you go type it into the internet browser, you'll just find it by typing in Clearbox, that's one word, intranet, and Employee Experience Platforms 2022. Can't miss it when you type in Clearbox. They always have great reports, and this is one of the newest ones that I wanted to call out. All right, put all the features aside. You know now what's launched in January 2022, but what about February 2022? Time for the teasers, time to close your eyes and visualize the future that is just around the corner of our calendars. Here are two teasers for what's coming in February 2022. Teaser number 1, Viva Topics brings new integrations with Yammer. These are like little windows of knowledge within the broader communal knowledge management system. Teaser number 2, pairing naming convention between Teams channels and corresponding SharePoint folders. When renaming a Teams channel, the corresponding SharePoint folder will be renamed too. Yes, I know, I've seen the feedback. I think it's going to be great. And it's one of those things, once you lock it in, it just works, and works the way that you've been wanting it to work. That's it with this month's Peek Ahead. We'll share more details and other updates within the SharePoint Roadmap Pitstop February 2022 edition. That's going to be a lot of twos, two in February next month. We've added a lot of learn more links per feature, plus a list of important resources in the show notes and in the corresponding blog post on the Microsoft Tech community published to the SharePoint community blog. I hope you've enjoyed this roadmap pit stop. Pump the brakes, it's time to relax knowing you're all caught up. If anything still leaves you scratching your head, open questions, or concerns, please send us your thoughts and comments to theintrozone@microsoft.com. We are here to put our and your best change management foot forward. Thanks for taking that step with us into the cloud month after month. And until next month, this is Mark Cashman saying, hope Punxsutawney Phil does not see his shadow on the roadmap ahead.